I'm Kid Champagne Matthew Haberman, and today we are back with another edition of Nostalgia Time. And we have a great show for you tonight. We're going to be popping the champagne to one of my favorites. It was part of Nickelodeon and was part of one of my beloved parts of every Saturday night going to Snick at 8 o'clock. I just loved watching Saturday Night on Nick. It is The Secret World of Alex Mack. Mm-hmm. And it's just one of my greatest. We're going to be popping the champagne tonight. And I have two great fans of The Secret World of Alex Mack here with me. First, my good friend and co-host and the host of Unger the Radar, my good friend, Randy Unger. Randy, how are you?
I'm good, Matt. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. It's great to have you back and doing this. And also, we had so much fun. We're going to be telling you about our experience in just a moment for what Randy and I had. And we'll get into that. And also with me, the head of Colt Cafe, my good friend, Matt Roaring. Matt, glad to have you back.
Pleasure to be back.
And I can see you're in the Secret World of Alex Mack's spirit with the hat, and that is one of the key things about it is the hat that all of Alex Mack wore.
What's with the hat? Yeah.
Cool. This is just great. We're all fans. I mean, we're all fans of Snick here. We all love the Snick lineup, right? So let me just I'm just going to put a few first things about Snick. Randy, what did you like about the Snick lineup on Nickelodeon?
I mean, it's been a number of years from when I used to watch Nickelodeon, but I could tell you that I remember just weekday afternoons after school, coming home, watching Clarissa Explains It All, Salute Your Shorts, Doug, and Rocko's Modern Life. Like, these were some classic children's programs, and The Secret World of Alex Mack was right there at the top. This was a fun show. It's science fiction, it's dramedy, it's exciting. The special effects weren't that good, but the storylines were pretty on point, and the acting was good too. And it was just, it was ingrained in my memory, and I still think of Nickelodeon programming to this day as being like some of the best programming that really shaped me as a kid. And it's just really very memorable stuff.
Well, I love Nickelodeon back in the 90s. I think that's what Nickelodeon stood out. Nothing can top Nickelodeon in the 90s. Yeah. Nothing. And especially Saturday night I was always glued from 8 to 10 on their Snick lineup. I mean, it started out in the original, started with Roundhouse, Clarissa Explains It All. I forget what the third one was.
Was it some animation or was it all live action?
Maybe it was animation. Maybe it was like a Rugrats or Doug or one of those.
Yeah, I think Snick originally started with the animation. I believe it started with Doug, Rugrats, Ren and Stimpy. And then I think...
Oh, that's what it was.
Are You Afraid of the Dark was after that?
The Dark. It was, That's right. They moved because Ren and Stimpy, they moved from the original Nicktoon lineup on Sundays to Snick because it was more of an older kid edition cartoon from the Nicktoons.
Right. The first lineup was Clarissa, Roundhouse, Ren and Stimpy, and Are You Afraid of the Dark? Mm-hmm. And Rugrats and Doug were on at 7 and 7:30.
Interesting.
That's how it was.
Shows.
Yeah,
and
it's really a blur because this was like close to 30 years ago. So
yeah.
But I just remember the feeling of just awe and wonder, and that it's kind of like it was like magic, really, from that each of these programs instilled in me. Like it just made you feel good, and really great programming. When I have kids, I'm gonna hunt down all the DVDs of all these great shows, including Alex Mack, and I'm going to show them, what great TV was.
And one good thing about it, and that's how Nickelodeon was, and I I definitely will be showing these to my kids as well.
Mhm.
And for one, this is why Alex Mack is one of my favorites. It was one of that shows that it had that science, because I was a whole big fan of science fiction, how with like the chemicals and science, it was all cool.
Yeah.
And I was hooked on it. And this show really worked.
Yeah. And the cast was great, very talented young actors, and even the parents,
The old one.
yeah, and Miss Atron and Vince,
Yeah.
and the truck driver, all of these great actors, just they really came together, they gelled, and they were brought together for a great show. And
It was, it was a pretty good cast. So let's get down to the rundown for it. The Secret World of Alex Mack. It was created by Thomas Lynch and Ken Littman. It starred Larissa Olenek, Darius Love, Meredith Bishop, Michael Blakely, Luann Gideon, and Darian Lapinto. And it aired on Nickelodeon, replacing the Clarissa Explains It All slot on Nickelodeon from 1994 to 1998. And in this, for the story house, Alex Mack was a kid that was starting 7th grade at Daniel A. Tron Junior High School. And, everything was just going, she was just having a hard day, 7th grade. I don't know how, we can talk about how our first day as junior high, I mean, I can. It was just, different, a new school, maybe some new friends. And the day was just really hard on her. And then as she was walking home, as she is involved in almost gotten hit by a truck from the Paradise Valley chemical plant. And with that, one of the dumps of the chemical known as GC-161 breaks open, and she's covered from head to toe in this GC-161. And she runs away out of fear for what happened from the accident. And then what happened is that she developing from these chemical side effects, so she developed these powers. And some of these powers was zapping electricity from her fingers, liquefying into some sort of puddle, and also telekinetic powers. And with that alone, her sister finds out about that she was involved in, and her best friend Ray, and they had to develop coming out of it with these powers. And with that, the chemical plant knew about the accident and that a kid was involved with it. And knowing because of the strange things with this chemical and with top secret that it's got out, the chemical plant is determined to find that kid. And what to do is unknown. As we get through that it is clear that they want this kid eliminated.
Probably perform some really horrible experiments on her, cut her open, just really analyze every molecule and, see what's going on physiologically. And basically she would have, the rest of her short life would be horrible, I'm sure, because Daniel Atron and Vince, they're pretty sinister people. They're very good villains, but really horrible people.
For the way how Daniel Atron was pronounced, it's kind of like a person that was just exit presidency, if you don't mind me saying. We don't have to talk about his name.
No, please, no, never again. Yeah.
But in this current, how the show comes out is that she is living as a kid, and she has these powers, but also that she has to always be due diligent because she knows that the chemical plant is out to find her, to do who knows what with her. That was always her fear.
Yeah.
But, that's how it is. But in the stories and how it is, it was just so, the story was so well thought out and the cast was so great. And I was just like hooked. It wasn't mostly like an action-packed thriller or anything like a lot of TV shows who want action or drama. It was just like an ordinary kid that has these little powers, and you just have to keep a secret from your parents and know the chemical plant wants to find you and turn you into some experiment.
Yeah, in a way, it's sort of like a daytime soap opera, but with superpowers. So yeah, it had a lot of different genres mixed in. So I think that combination of different styles and genres really made for a great show.
And Matt, what did you think of it?
Well, it's for me, it's one of those things. I was, I guess, it started when I was a freshman in high school, which was an incredibly tough time for me. I went to a high school where it was like Dazed and Confused, where like they would hunt down and paddle freshmen, and I was just like not a big fan of the high school experience, and I had pretty much like grown out of children's programming at this point. I was 16, so I pretty much like didn't watch a lot of like the cartoons and stuff besides Ren and Stimpy. That was like a go-to thing, and I remember watching it, and then Alex Mack started, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like the whole like origin is almost like Daredevil, like the barrel rolling off the truck. It's like the same origin as him, and I was a huge fan of comics. So I just watched it, and it was just like oh, this is cool. It's like science fiction. It's like like a drama piece. It didn't feel like it was like strictly for children, so it didn't dumb down things. So I kind of just like got hooked into watching that, and it made me a fan, and I watched it. I think I only watched like the first few seasons, first two maybe, and then not until recently had I watched the final seasons. And even like the way that it's set up, it's great to see a show like presented to a younger audience that has this great storyline. You don't really get that a lot, and especially during that time, everything was very episodic and like sitcom-esque, where everything was problem began and ended within the episode. Which I mean, obviously they have minor problems in each episode, but winding it down all the way to like the final episode where it's this grand story about basically you have this girl who's not only is she hiding from an evil corporation, her dad works for that corporation.
Yeah,
And he's like involved in this
he was
chemical.
he was involved in working on the chemical.
Yeah. So I mean, it's very, very comic book-esque, like from that aspect, and I was very intrigued by that, and I kind of wish I had continued it all the way to the end when it was originally on. But I watched them now, and I'm still impressed.
Yeah, and Matt Roran, the plot definitely flows into throughout each season.
Yeah,
pretty seamlessly, and it feels like it's just like a natural progression, which is nice to see in a TV show. And yeah, we don't want a problem just to be rectified in 25 minutes with a cute little red bow. But it's nice to see continuity and how the story progresses throughout the season. So
there's stakes, and like like there's a real sense of danger in the show as well. Because I mean, everyone, I mean, look at Alf, man. Look what they wanted to cut him up, and that was a comedy. And that ended with them like capturing him and wanting to dissect him. So
Touche.
Well, one thing about this show is that I liked it. It had its beginning and it had its end, and that's how you run a successful TV show.
Yeah.
We all been talking like some issues of how, and even some that I feel like that I love. Salute Your Shorts, Hey Dude, and those are just a couple. Or even Are You Afraid of the Dark, when it had its few runs. They didn't really have its. They were just canceled.
Yeah, there's no resolution. Whereas like this it's so great that it's like it didn't run too long,
Mhm.
and it gets wrapped up, which is like, and leaves it open for possibly more.
Yeah. Was this 4 seasons or 5?
It was 4 seasons.
4. Okay.
What I liked about The Secret World of Alex Mack. The show was a successful. It had its full beginning, middle, and ending.
Mm.
So, and you know what? One thing I have to say is now we're going to be getting into this, and I'll put this on, and we're going to be talking about it. But Randy and I, we had the opportunity to speak with some members of the Secret World of Alex Mack family. And that will be coming exclusively to the Unger the Radar channel exclusively on YouTube, and that'll be up within the next coming weeks. We will get into that in a little bit, just a little preview. But one thing was just beautifully cast.
Yeah.
And I have to say, Tom Lynch did a fine job, and his casting style and how he wanted is very, very rigorous. And you know, he told us on that one, right, Randy?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, he really wrangled some great kid actors for this. You really believe that what's happening on screen is real. I mean, and the sense of urgency, like Matt Roran was mentioning, it's definitely present throughout pretty much every single episode. And these young actors really pulled it off, and you're there with them, and you're rooting for Alex. You want her to get away. You want her to have a somewhat normal life. And yeah, it's just very, very talented cast in this show.
So for the cast members, first cast as Alex Mack was Larissa Olenek, the teenage girl who started 7th grade to get drenched with the chemical GC-161. And we all know that it's her part for going through life with these powers and making sure that she keeps it away from her parents. She tells a couple of people know about her secret, and that is her best friend Ray and her sister Annie. And her best friend Ray was played by Darius Love, who was Alex's best friend. Feels like it's cool and also has fun knowing that Alex has the powers, and sometimes he benefits from it as well. We also have Meredith Bishop, who played Annie Mack, who is Alex's sister, very science nerdy, and in the end, just loves science. But also Alex tries to teach her to be somewhat laid back and cool, and tries to have fun as well. Luann Gideon, who plays Daniel A. Tron, who is also the CEO and who is the villain mostly in this, the CEO of the Paradise Valley Chemical Plant. She plays off at the stern boss, you know, like no one really likes her in real life. She knows like she is a terrible person. Don't you think so? Matt and Randy.
Oh my God. She is like personified evil.
Yeah, classic villain.
Yeah, they ripped her straight from like a Disney film, like an animated Disney villainess. And she's just so fun to watch in this show. Unfortunately, Luann Gideon passed away, and but she left behind such a great legacy, a great performances. Not only in this, but also she had a relatively memorable role for me anyway on Seinfeld. She played the mother of a girl Jerry was dating, and kind of like a Mrs. Robinson from The Graduate type of character. But yeah, she was the perfect villainess in Alex Mack.
I will also tell you she was very close friends with Bryan Cranston.
Oh, okay. Who was also on Seinfeld.
Yes.
It's also from one of my favorite shows, Breaking Bad.
Oh my God. Yes. Oh, Matt Haberman, I think we may have to do a show on that at some point. Just throwing it out there.
Oh, it's coming.
Nice. I didn't want to put you on the spot or anything, but it's a great show.
We also have on this John Marzell, who played Vince, the head of security.
So good.
which let me just say one thing for this. Vince and Danielle Atron is like a good pair. I'm like, I thought like sometime that there would be a love affair between Vince and Danielle Atron.
I mean,
behind the scenes,
there were some scenes like their chemistry and their interplay. It kind of seemed like something was going on there. Yeah. So
But Vince was very loyal to Danielle Atron in every single way, even though for what it is. Say what you want about Vince. I like the guy for his loyalty. That's what I liked about that character. His loyalty through even though he was one of those evil henchmen trying to find that kid. And we know like what he would do is like something really, really nasty to that kid. You see it in his eyes that there would something bad will happen if you get found by Vince. You don't want to be found by Vince.
Yeah. He was pretty sinister, pretty vile, and that voice was so good. Like he had such a unique, I guess you'd call like a Jersey New Yorker accent, or even Boston. It's hard, just like a general tough guy accent. And I loved every scene that he was in. He was just so good.
Why she had to fire him, I don't know. I think there should have been more of a story arc to Vince for how it led to him out. But I guess for all those times failing to find that kid, you lose your job.
Well, I mean, he tried multiple occasions, but oh well. He tried.
Now, for one, I've always wanted to there's, and I've just learned this too on IMDb, that for the creation, why was it called GC-161? And Randy, you and I went over this as well. That GC-161 was actually created from his father or from his family for what GC, because he was a real scientific, he was a science genius for what I've heard from his fathers, and that 161 equals 8. 1 plus 6 plus 1 is 8, because it was 8 years old, I think, when he taught him this. Is that the correct from that?
I think that's pretty accurate. Did you find out what the GC stood for as well?
I as far from what I've been hearing, is general chemical.
And the 8 means what again? I'm sorry.
I think for the 8 means because he was 8 years old by the time that he learned about all this in science.
Okay. Plus, it sounds cool. GC-161. So maybe that's why they picked it as well.
And, with it, for what I said, with that chemical, she had some great powers. I want to just put this out to you guys. Which one of those powers would you love to have?
I mean, what telekinesis, is that what, moving stuff with your mind? That's pretty
moving stuff in your mind, telekinesis.
Cool. Yeah, I like that.
The primary ones was the telekinetic abilities, the zapping bolts, electricity, and liquefying into a puddle, I think. And as she got older, some powers were she was able to liquefy others while she was liquefying.
By touching them.
And was able to liquefy her clothes, which in the first episode, she is not.
Right. And with her shooting electricity out of her fingers, can she intensify the electricity, or is it always going to be the same strength? Do we know?
I mean, I think that would have been up to, she probably could have intensified the strength. I would think so.
Yeah. That's kind of cool.
Also, there was other things, if she had other chemicals reacted to her, when she had curried rice, she was able to get super strength.
Oh, really? Oh, I missed that one.
And also there was one where she was just hyper focused, tensive for detective something like that.
Like X-ray vision almost.
I think so. Oh, there was also one where a chemical where she got laced with split her personalities into so there was a double of Alex Mack in one episode where one was good, the other was almost pure evil.
Like Superman 3, when Superman gets kind of split into two characters. One's evil, one's actually no, was it? Yeah, he slowly becomes like evil and doesn't care about anything. And then he has a fight with Clark Kent, who like detaches himself from his body. It was a strange scene. Sorry, I'm digressing.
I mean, yeah, but of course, Matt, you've seen that episode. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's always cool to see them do the where the actress gets to play the dual role of the separate personalities. I mean, it's something that I always enjoy whenever they do on any kind of show or movie. It really, you get to see like the person's, different sides of the character, which is always nice because it's amplified, evilness or goodness or whatever. And I like seeing people when they turn into badasses because it's hysterical. Much like Stefan Urkel.
Oh, Family Matters is definitely going to be coming on Nostalgia Time, people. I will be having an episode of that coming up. But the playing field is so large for the show, as you know.
Oh, it is. I mean, pretty much anything on TGIF from like the late 80s to the mid 90s. Game on for me. Game on. Do it.
So going back with Alex Mack right now, I'm going to be getting into this right now. For Randy and I, we have the special treat, and let me just say thank you, Randy, for getting this set up. But also, Randy and I had the privilege to interview Tom Lynch, Darius Love, Jason Strickland, and Natanya Ross. We did that a couple of weeks ago, and I just got to say that was one of the best times of my life. And just even putting on for the show, talking about all these shows, but to be able to talk to these actors for their experiences, almost like one-on-one exclusive for that whole time. Like I felt like we did it right in Zoom. It was like they were right in my house. Pretty much they were right in my house.
Pretty much, Matt. And I'll just say that they actually did a larger reunion in 2018 to celebrate the 20th anniversary of their last season. But we had a mini reunion 2.0. So we had Tom Lynch, the co-creator. He was really cool.
Oh my God, was really cool. And let's just say, Tom Lynch was also a creator of some of my other favorites on Nickelodeon: The Journey of Alan Strange, 100 Deeds for Eddie McDowd, and one of my favorites on the Disney Channel, The Jersey.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he has an eye for content, like quality content. And I'm just so grateful that he brought Alex Mack into our lives. Just a fun show. Everyone should enjoy it, young and old. We had Tom Lynch. We had Darius Love, who played Daryl. He was very cool. He was on his way to the Super Bowl on his cell phone at the time, but we managed to squeeze a few questions in for him. Natanya Ross was also very, very cool, very laid back, and I actually she connected me with Jason Strickland, another actor on the show, actually the character that Alex Mack has a big crush on throughout much of the show. So yeah,
who we worked together, who also had that was her big break. Mm-hmm. We did not get to interview her, unfortunately, but Jessica Alba. And one thing I just like for what Tom said is like, you're going to love your girlfriend on the show. You're going to love your girlfriend on the show. And he did.
He got to, did he say he got to make out with her, or he definitely had a lot of scenes with her.
Well, one of the episodes that we're going to be discussing tonight, there was some good parts that we're going to be having with Jessica Alba. She wasn't that much. I mean, she was in the first season, like in quite a few episodes, to be exact.
And she was always kind of the villain, like a slight villain. Like she was a bully basically to Alex. I mean, throughout much of the first season, which is
any of the girlfriends of Scott during the show was pretty much a rival yet bully to Alex Mack. You don't want to. It's like you want Scott, but I have him. You can't have him.
Yeah.
Don't do what I would do.
Yeah. I'm on to you. I know what your plan is.
Yeah.
You better watch your back.
Pretty much. But we didn't get to speak with Jessica Alba, unfortunately. But I'm sure she was there in spirit.
Yeah, but it was just those stories that he said was just amazing. And it's like, oh my, wow. And one thing I know about with Tom is that, you know, he never settled for something less. And all his cast gave everything 100% for the show. And you see it in that show, 100%.
Yeah.
And they gave it to him. This guy has a lot of respect in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's like, again, he certainly picked his actors very, very well. And that's pretty much the main driving force behind this show's success is the characters and the actors playing those characters. So yeah, Tom Lynch, thank you, sir. That was, yeah.
I mean, you can see, and even for how much that with Natanya and Jason and Darius, how much, you know, for what they praised, for all that they had nothing but good things to say about Tom Lynch.
Yeah.
And and one thing also that I'm going to put out, like, you know, we've been hearing like the stories of like, you know, things like of what happened on the show, verbal abuse or abuse, or none of that happened on any of his shows, and he would not even tolerate it.
Yeah.
So if you're a parent, you have a child actor, you go on to one of his shows, I will say this, you know that your child will be safe.
Yeah. Yeah, he was basically like their like godfather, a lot of these child actors, and he like took them under his wing and he made them shine. And yeah, they all said in the interview that, you know, he wouldn't let any harm fall on them. So he was just a real
exactly. And he helped, Darius get a car. Like he helped them through life in some of these ways.
Yeah. During their formative years, like what, 13, 14, up until, you know, throughout high school. It's really great to hear you know, stories like that from Tom.
And they said they had their rap parties at Six Flags Magic Mountain.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, Matt Roran, I wish you were there. It was a good interview. All right.
So I mean, it was just, I mean, I had so much fun. I wish I could have gone more. I mean, for Tom Lynch, there's so much stories that he could possibly tell. And I hope I get the opportunity to talk to him again one of these days. Again, Randy, thank you for setting this up.
Yeah.
And again, this is going to be up on the Unger the Radar channel. That's Unger with a G, exclusively on YouTube. This is a Nostalgia Time and Unger the Radar special event, and there could be more coming depending for what we have. My mind is just blown by it, and hopefully we can get some more of these in the future going.
Oh yeah. You know, this is what I do. This is what I love. I love connecting people, you know, connecting just not just interviews, but you guys, connecting you to the stuff we love to watch and to just talk about it and relive the magic. I'm all about magic, you know, and Alex Mack, there's a ton of magic that each episode gave us. So, you know, I love bringing people and that magic together. So.
And speaking of episodes, that's the next thing we're going to be talking about. One thing that I love about talking about these TV shows is rewatching episodes and giving our reviews about it. Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, we just, like, one of the episodes we reviewed is the pilot. I pretty much summed up what the pilot was already. I think it was well thought out, and it's definitely great for the beginning. Definitely shows up what is to become of Alex Mack and what we can see. Just a review of the pilot. Again, Randy, Matt, take it away. What are your reviews for the pilot?
Matt Roran, after you.
All right, well, like I said, it was something that it definitely caught my attention and roped me into the story itself. I just thought it handled the subject really well in like a tight package. There was no filler. It went straight into, I mean, you see the accident is within the first like 5 minutes of the episode. It's kind of like, the way it moves along is just like, and but before you knew it, the episode was over and you were wanting more.
I just like how it was like at the end of the episode, everything was like going haywire, and then you hear Danielle Atron goes, have a good night's sleep, kid. Tomorrow is another day. One knows that Danielle Atron is after you.
Yep.
Yeah, sinister. And I think a bunch, if not all, the scenes in the opening title sequence are taken from the pilot. So, and her I love her narration during the whole opening title, because it sums up the entire problem that she's facing, the entire adventure that she's about to go on. And
you love the theme song too from it, Randy.
Yes. So Tom Lynn said that they wanted Danny Elfman originally, but that didn't happen, unfortunately. I'm sure he was way too expensive. That would have been an amazing theme, but but we got
you can hear that element.
Yeah,
of second-rate Elfman.
Yeah, indeed.
It's like every once in a while, I love when they do that when they really want a song, or Ghostbusters, for instance, where it's like they wanted Huey Lewis, couldn't get Huey Lewis, ripped off his song completely. It's like, I Want a New Drug is now Ghostbusters.
I
They
know.
did it for In the Mouth of Madness. John Carpenter wanted Enter Sandman to be the opening credits song, and instead it's just a metal song that just sounds like pretty much like that song.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, it's a good opportunity for lesser known composers to kind of shine. So
it's like being an understudy on a Broadway,
Yeah, that's a good comparison. but we got a pretty good theme here in the Secret World of Alex Mack. It's like
we did. I love the theme song.
It's like twinkly. It's kind of sci-fi comedy-ish. It's got a great style, great flavor to it. So great theme.
and that's what sets off, and I do like going into it from the beginning of the theme song to the ending where they have it again. And it just makes the show like exciting to watch. So the next episode we have is called The Videotape, and during this, Alex is on a class trip to the Paradise Valley chemical plant. In this it's kind of really much like a career day type of thing, where all the classes doing like split up in the chemical plant, doing like separate jobs as an apprentice. One of them, Alex, is an apprentice to her father, George Mack, but also going through it, Vince and Dave, who was the truck driver, they had a plan that they think that the kid is at the chemical plant that day. So what they have is a bunch of security cameras checking, and they're determined to look at all the videotapes of all the kids to find out if anything stands out that this could be the kid from the accident. And little for what it is, Alex unwittingly shows off her powers in front of a video camera. And now, with their assistance with Ray and Annie, they have to break into the chemical plant and sneak through before Daniel, Atron, and Vince and Dave can get a chance to see the video. And this is where we kind of like know that she has to make, that's one thing about Alex is like one of the rules that Annie came up with her is that don't ever use your powers in public because you never know if the chemical plant is out there to find them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that this is just one of the things that she mistakenly always uses her powers in public and sometimes to find it. And most of the time she is very careful, but some of the time there are those mistakes that happen. And
which we'll talk about even more in future episodes. There's a couple very bad mistakes she makes.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, this is one of my favorite episodes because it comes into the brink like she is in danger and she has to get out of it before they find her. Randy, what did you think of it?
My favorite aspect of this episode was Ray and how he became like Daniel Atron's assistant, apprentice.
Oh yes.
And he's got like a huge power trip. He thinks he's like really important. And she doesn't even like acknowledge his existence. Like she hates this kid. She like, get out of my office. Like this, and he's acting so full of himself. It's really, really funny to see. It's a great showcase for Darius Love's comedy. And he did a really good job in that episode. I also liked Alex, just running around the lab, the facility, trying to get the tape, try to conceal her identity. And it's a nice little caper, and she's like running around, and it's just a fun episode.
Yeah, I definitely love the caper aspect of the episode. It's with the shots from the video cameras and everything. I just love the way that they play with that.
And also Alex having zero interest in her father's job. She's so bored.
I also liked of how Vince was like training like people that were out in the security. They're like some sort of army waiting for security. Like it was like this drill sergeant.
Yeah. It was just a really well-made episode, and it showcased pretty much all the actors' talents.
Yeah.
And again, had a great flow like every other episode.
Yeah, and I love pretty much a bunch of episodes, and I picked these out because these are some of my favorites. Mm-hmm. One of my next favorite is, when we came back, when Tomlin says you're gonna love your girlfriend for Jason when he played Scott. So this is like a crush moment for Alex and Scott in a way, and it's the school dance. And the school dance is coming up at Daniel Atron Junior High School, and what more than Alex would want is Scott to be her date for the dance. And Alex is determined to go out to the school dance with Scott, but she has to compete with Scott's girlfriend, Jessica, also played by Jessica Alba. I guess they did not have like another character name for it, so they just called her Jessica.
It happens.
For his affection. And with it, pretty much all seems to be not so great, but what Alex does is that she uses her powers on Jessica to make it like a really bad day so that she can just get at least one dance with Scott. And then at the end of it, he goes back with Jessica, but then who comes to the rescue is no more than his best friend, Ray. And I got to tell you, Ray is such a good guy. And I mean, I like this, this episode. It's for what we said, it's like you want him, but you can't have him.
Yeah. And doesn't Ray ask Alex to the prom or to the dance himself?
I think yes.
And she turns him down, unfortunately, saying I think she considered him to be like a brother. And that's a real slap in the face for a girl to reject you in that way. But you know, it's a life lesson for Ray. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah. And Matt, what did you think of it?
I mean, it's a great episode to showcase the that relationship between them, because also like Ray kind of only asked her, he didn't really feel anything for her either like that, but kind of felt bad for her that no one was asking her. So he thought it was like his duty. So of course they have that whole thing where they talk about how like, oh well, you'll never understand what women want. So it's one of those episodes, but the I love all the stuff she does to Jessica Alba's character at the dance to like get that one dance. And then it's like the fans and all that, they get pretty creative with deterrence for squeezing that dance.
This is all teenage life back in like the days of middle school. There's nothing like the days of middle school. Am I right?
I hated middle school, but okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Same with me.
Exactly.
Oh.
The days in school for a kid are not as great as you think they are.
No. Yeah, growing pains. Different. That'll be a different episode, by the way.
That'll be a different episode. Although I was not much into growing pains, but
Oh, really? Okay, then it won't be.
on our next episode we have is Alex and Mom. Now, in this episode, Alex, in the beginning, she gets a preview movie. I forget what it was called, but with her friends. But she had wanted to ask someone to go with her. The crush, Scott. Mm-hmm. And as she was trying to ask him, Alex's mother comes along and asks her to get the groceries to make. It was her turn to make dinner tonight, and ruins her plans. And then on that, I think I guess there was miscommunication, and Annie and her dad were not going to have dinner tonight. And with it comes a little fight with Alex and her mother, because she could have gone to the movies and everything. And after all that, she decides to mess up with her work papers, where she has a big meeting with her public relations firm for Daniel Atron, the beloved Daniel Atron, right? And with that, because the meeting didn't go so well, she's at a threat to lose her job. But with that, the next day, Scott invited her to a pool party at his house, and she tries to show off her powers with a little water polo to try to make Scott's eye. But then again, Annie comes to say, that she really needs in good conscience to help out her mother, to make sure that this plan works out so that she doesn't lose her job. And this is one of my favorite episodes because, there are those times where, your parents and your kids, you get into those arguments, you got to be responsible. And it's one of those kind of little family issues that happens in real life. And that's why it also teaches you, things happen, but, you got to go through with it. What do you guys think? Randy, we'll start with you.
So this episode was one of the few that you had sent us to watch, because for me it's been definitely over 20 years since I've seen any of these episodes. So I'm glad you sent those. So this episode definitely highlighted the relationship between Alex and her mom. It really focused on the mother and her career in the span of like a day or two, where she's like really on thin ice with Daniel Atron. She's in danger of losing her job, and the scenes of her not having a certain file or presentation, really cringeworthy, and like you really feel for her. Like she's you could see that she's she's struggling with her work and she's failing and she might get fired. So I was really invested in Mrs. Mack's storyline, and this was probably one of my favorite episodes just because of that, because it just felt real. Like it was just really good acting on her part, the actress's part. So
yeah, it's definitely great in a show like this to have those episodes that really like develop the characters of the parents, because that's another thing on a lot of kid shows you don't get as often is like the story of like how, you know, what her day, the mom's day is like, what the dad's day is like, and both the parents on the show are very well developed, and of course are both so connected with the chemical and everything, you know. So it only adds another layer, a very interesting layer to this story, you know.
yeah, I'm trying to think of Clarissa Explains It All and her parents.
Yeah, Mitchell and I can't remember her mom. I can't remember.
Right.
I remember what they look like. That's about
I
it.
just remember the father had curly hair and
And
glasses.
glasses, yeah.
Yeah, that's about it.
Well,
But
we'll definitely talk, because I do like Clarissa Explains It All, and
yeah,
that will be definitely in another episode.
definitely.
But it just shows, like, that mother-daughter relationship, but as a coming, you're a teenager, and like you want, your parents will, feel you're old enough to give you more responsibilities to do, and they expect you to do them, and then again you don't. But it also shows, it also depends, like, and this was Alex's mistake, she didn't think, messing up her papers would be that bad, but it turned out it did,
Yeah.
And that's also a threat to your livelihood. If you lose your job, how you're going to pay for everything. The struggle for finding a new job, it's not all that easy.
Yeah.
I think we all know
in town that this seems to be the only business in town. I think you can either work in the school or for this company. That's it.
Yeah, those are like the only sets that they.
I don't think they ever ate anywhere else in this.
No, there was like some those restaurant scenes. And,
yeah,
they had like the 50s style.
we knew there was a movie theater, so yeah.
Yes.
But we do look for everything for what it is. Like the town main economic structure was the chemical plant.
Yeah, the chemical
there was
plant.
nothing else we know. It was always the chemical plant, the plant.
Yeah, anytime you saw like a shot of like something on the news, it was because of the chemical plant. It's like, it probably employed. Well, actually, you find out how many of the parents and whatever involved it employed him. Pretty much everybody. Everyone's parents worked there.
Pretty much.
So
like a small town in the middle of America. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how, like, a lot of it's like, these small town, like there's maybe this like one big factory that everybody works at.
Yep.
They all go in at 9 and they all leave at 5, or
yeah, and I mean, I forget where it was recently, but there was a town like that where the factory shut down and pretty much everyone had to move. So, which is also a story of Nomadland, actually. That also happened in that movie as well.
Great movie.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how it was. Everything was focused on the chemical plant.
Yeah,
it's true.
Now, going into our next episode review, it's the new kid in town, and this one introduces us to a new character in the show named Lewis Driscoll, and his great befriends the new kid who moved from Cincinnati. Now, Lewis Driscoll is kind of like this trying to be cool type of kid, but always like gets into like that little sorts of trouble, and sometimes you just can't trust him enough. And Alex quickly becomes annoyed and jealous over Ray and spending more time with him. And this is, I like this one because it also, it gives another good friend to Ray. but it also like brings in another friend to the group for Alex. I mean, there was also some trouble that Lewis got into, but Alex uses her powers to try and stop him from getting hurt seriously.
I mean, why couldn't they all three of them just get along? I mean, you know, there was like so much animosity and tension between these three. Yeah,
I mean, even it's like rewatching this episode, and I'm just thinking like, even though I was probably very similar to the Lewis character when I was his age, I was like, man, I don't like this kid. Like, I'm like, oh, he's kind of an ass, and I'm like, oh, I mean, it reminds me of me. What an ass. And you know, it's just, you know, that type of. I mean, there's definitely moments in my life where I remember, because it's like I always had like that one friend, you know, that I always hung out with, and when there's a new person introduced that they start hanging out with, it's like, but that's my guy, like that's my friend, you know. It's definitely like a territorial thing, and you can definitely feel for, I mean, all three of the characters, you can understand where they're coming from, you know, because it's always nice to have like someone else to talk to. But of course, that also brought in the whole having a member of this group who doesn't know the secret, and you cannot trust with the secret.
No.
right.
And let me just tell you, that was going to be one of the episodes that we will be talking about just after the next one we talk. And you can tell why he is not trustworthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely you know, a hard place for all three of those characters, because it's like being new. You know, also like your like best friend is upset with you, and then the whole idea that like maybe your best friend likes this person better, and you could lose your best friend basically. So,
and throw puberty into the mix, and you've got a wonderful show. Yeah. But Matt Roran, you were like Lewis Driscoll as a kid?
I think so. I mean, I'm kind of annoying and like cranky and like, you know, like.
Oh, like you're likable. You're not like, I think Lewis Driscoll.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely hope. I hope I was more likable.
Yeah, I'm sure you were.
I like honestly don't like that kid.
I do like Lewis's style, like how he dressed with like the fedoras, and he dressed it kind of like, you know, hey, you know what? I like that style. I like that look on him.
Kind of like Ducky and what was it, 16 Candles? Or Pretty in Pink.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I get, you know, it's like I basically lived that Lewis Driscoll life. So that was me in middle school.
I mean, there's always a Lewis Driscoll out there in the school, no matter how it is. There's always that kind of like that little jerk in your core group of friends.
It's inevitable. Yeah,
yeah. It's a sad realization to watch something like this and realize, like, man, I was the Lewis Driscoll of the group.
Oh.
And now to our next episode. Now, this one I had to do this one where the roles are kind of reversed in this one. That's the secret world of Ray Alvarado. And after this, so in this episode, how it goes is that Alex and Ray are actually running from Vince for somehow reason. I guess he found out who Alex was. And then for some freak accident, a lightning bolt strikes and transfers the powers from Alex to Ray. And in it, Ray is actually a little bit hands off with the powers and tells everyone that he got his powers. And it comes out where Atron and Ray are like really happy about this and haven't done really anything, or so that we think about. And then they start doing they make like a whole big company out of Russ. And then they're going to be starting doing experiments on him. And as he knows, he has to try to escape from it. and then like he pops up, and then like it's kind of like all a bad dream. I mean, I like this episode because it shows like how fun Ray is if like he had the powers.
Yeah, the episode starts out with, basically him trying to get Alex to use her powers to cheat for him in baseball. And, it's kind of like a whole like, well, I would do it for you kind of thing. And then it's like you see him with the powers, and it's all he he just wants to show it off.
Yeah. It's so good. Like, again, Darius Love demonstrating some really good acting skills here. And I think this episode, the premise would have been perfect for like a feature-length film. I mean, it was sort of used in Rookie of the Year, but that character, he didn't flaunt his abilities so openly, and like
it's like Slam Dunk Ernest.
Something like that. Yeah. But he really reveled in the publicity, and he milked it for all it was worth, and it was really fun to watch. This is probably
that first scene with him with the powers, where he's just standing in the schoolyard, and he's like, "All right, who wants to fly?" Like, okay, now you can fly. Like, he's just like,
it's and he wants to like have fun, go out with Alex and his friends, but he can't because the lab technically owns him.
Yep.
And the father's reluctance to sign his son's life away. Like, it was a well-made episode.
Yeah,
it definitely was. I mean, you just can't when those things happen, you just never know. But then again, in the end, the chemical plant wanted to find you and turn you into some experiment or to find out. So that threat was always there. And even if it wasn't for Alex, it would have been on Ray the same way.
Yeah.
But that's how like one of those things, it's like with this company, okay, you have this, let's make you feel good first before and everything. And then we're going to disguise it. Okay.
Bait and switch.
That's what it is. Bait and switch.
That should have been the name of the episode. If it wasn't, that wasn't the name of it.
That was the secret world of Ray Alvarado.
Yes. Oh, Ray. And you know what? I think I mistakenly said Daryl instead of Ray earlier for Darius Love's character. I kind of meshed both names together, but yeah, you guys probably didn't notice, but I did. But yeah, I know it's Ray now, so it's Ray.
That's okay. Now going into this is like pretty much these last two were pretty much the part 1 and part 2 of the series finale of The Secret World of Alex Mack. It's pretty much what everything that Alex had feared long ago. Mm-hmm. So in this, and then what we have learned also throughout the show for what GC 161 was supposed to be made. It was supposed to be made as a weight loss drug. They do all that testing. Well, let me tell you something. We all have like that fear, for losing weight, and like, having this wonder drug where we can lose weight and just eat what we want. Never. It's like that too good to be true type of thing.
I'll
right?
tell you, if you turn into a puddle of silver goo, I think you'll be less than what you weigh. So win-win.
Well, I don't know. Do you want to have a bunch of like thousands of people getting that on the shelves and then zapping electricity fingers and then
moving things with their minds?
I mean, did they not test this stuff? Like, what were they doing?
Oh, they did. They talk about it too, and that, like in the last 2 episodes, that there are many terrible side effects that they basically cover up. And like it's kind of like they just want to get the drug out there.
Oh, that's horrible.
It's make money. It's kind of like kind of like a quick buck. I don't care what happens to you. All I care about is the money. And that's like a kind of like a thing where that's like that's what Danielle Atron was like. I don't care what they do as long as it makes me money.
Mm-hmm.
And with that alone, this episode is called Paradise Lost. And what it is that Danielle Atron is just moments away from releasing her GC161 chemical as an enhanced weight loss drug throughout the country. And also with this, Lewis finds out about Alex Mack's secret, that she was the kid that was drenched with the chemical GC161. And, out of a mistake that she was looking to morph into a puddle, and with it, Lewis was trying to squirt her, and that's how she found out about it.
Snuck up on her and then witnessed the transformation.
Yeah.
And with that, she told her like everything, and pleads with Lewis not to tell. And I can tell you from that scene, I was like, that's not good. He's gonna tell someone. He's gonna tell. But also he isn't careful as the others. And as he was walking, he talks to Ray on a cell phone, and even Ray was like, there could be
a cell phone right now.
hang up now. I was like, because people could be hearing these things, and he damn were right. And with it in that, he gets kidnapped and put into a van, and they try to interrogate him. It's like, who has these special powers? And he just panics right away. And with that alone, also with that, Alex was dealing with that, the GC1 was coming onto the shelves. Danielle Atron let her father go, so he fired her, so he lost her job. So everything around this was crashing on Alex at the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't for her friend Hunter, was telling her that it might be time to tell her parents about it before things are too late. But things got too late as the guards from the chemical plant show up to take Alex, and they take her to the chemical plant. And they trapped her in a case, knowing that this is what Danielle Atron wanted, to bring her to testing. She finally found the kid, and she finally got what she wanted. I mean, it was a scary time. This is exactly what Alex had feared all along.
Yeah. It was the whole series, like, finally coming to this dramatic conclusion that you hoped wouldn't happen, but you kind of knew would eventually happen.
Yeah. That all roads led to this, and it kind of felt like the unveiling of like a fine, like Avengers Endgame. Like, it was like all these episodes that were leading to this huge climactic battle reveal. She's finally contained, she's trapped, she's Daniel, it looks like Danielle Atron has won, and this is it. This is the final moment of truth.
And we all know like the history for like Danielle Atron. She was like this ruthless. There was a lot of people that hated her too. I mean, it was just like knowing this, like, and like when someone like this, and like in all stories, like all the issues come to bite you, and they bite you hard. And this was like one where it just came crashing down on her.
Yeah.
When that all comes, there comes light. But there's also some things that had to be revealed from this. And that comes in part 2, which was called Paradise Found. After Alex was being kidnapped from the chemical plant, she finds herself trapped inside the plant, as you know. Also, Danielle Atron kidnapped both her parents. And it was time for Alex to finally tell the truth, because both her parents, George and Barbara, they didn't even know like what was going on. Why did they want Alex all this time? And it turned out that, she had to reveal the truth, that she was the kid that was drenched in GC161 for her time in junior high. So she tells her everything, tells them everything. And at the point, Alex's father said if she came to him at the very beginning, Danielle Atron would have been stopped a long time ago, and he could have protected her. There could have been no need for any of this.
Yeah.
but it all came by, like, when those kind of situations, and I'll just put this out there, you just don't know what to do. You're probably, if you came like in this, like, oh my God, what am I do? Should I not say anything? Do I say anything? Like, what will happen to me? Like, I don't even know. There was like, when there was like a bunch of things that were coming down, like, you don't know what the best choice was to make.
Yeah, to hide something like that or to not hide it, it's a very big decision. And we've seen this many times in movies and TV. What comes to mind right now is E.T. Basically, they're hiding this creature from another planet, and they don't know whether the government is going to come and arrest them and take ET away and cut him up for science. So it's like a very serious moral dilemma that Alex Mack faced. So I don't know what I would personally. I don't know what I would do in her situation. So it's a tricky thing.
And also all along, her dad was working on a cure for something he didn't even know his daughter was inflicted with.
Right. And then she kept on explaining, he kept, after explaining to her that, when we go into that George even says, you don't know what the long-term effect in these chemicals can do. There could always be some long-term danger. And thankfully he found an antidote. And even though her sister Annie was working on an antidote, she did not have enough information, but he did. And with that alone, not also coming with that, but also Daniel knew that they had him here and she had to get rid of him. So she planned to blow up the chemical plant with them inside, linking that she had, so that she has no history to GC 161. So she was planning to flee the country and with a Swiss bank account in her hand.
Yep.
But luckily to her friends Ray and Hunter, they break them out. Hunter stops Atron from leaving the country. And the chemical plant is destroyed by mostly everyone. Atron is arrested by the FDA, thanks to also with the assistance of Dave, the truck driver, who was also, at the time, like, even though he didn't have a good look, back in the time that he initially found from his memory and spying on Alex, but he decided that, they too, like, he knew the threat. He knew that they would harm her. So he did everything in the power to keep her safe as well. And later, as it comes out, and this is where the part which I would be getting into this, at the ending, Alex's father gives the antidote to her. In the ending scene, we show that, she does her electricity one more time, holding up the antidote. And like, this is the end, or is it? Do we know if she really takes the antidote? Which also which could leave room for, which I would think of, like a reboot or someone. And I asked that question to Tom Lynch on that interview. And let me just put this here on Nostalgia Time, because I can say this. He wants to do a reboot of The Secret World of Alex Mack, but he wants to do it his way. And to be honest, I trust his way.
Yeah.
Larissa Olenek as a mom, kind of struggling mom.
Hey, they're doing it with everyone else, right?
Yeah,
Brewster and all them, and now
they're doing it with Punky Brewster. They did it with Girl. They did it with Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
World,
Fuller House. Saved by the Bell on
Mad About You.
Yeah.
And, like
Will and Grace.
Yeah.
The
Murphy Brown.
And obviously 25 years later, the visual effects have been, the technology has gotten a lot better, so they could have a lot.
Yeah, TV now will be at least the level of James Cameron in 1992. So
and actually it's funny because I think Tom Lynch mentioned how Terminator 2 was inspiration for the silver puddle in Alex Mack, so that's pretty cool.
It's one of those things you just like always assumed, where it was like, okay, they figured this out, now we want to use it for this, so it's
it was awesome.
I mean, I can see it. There's just like my mind for where it could go. But that decision is not up to me. That's up to to the creator of the show, and that would be Tom Lynch
and the network that owns it, which it would be a full mistake not to go with it.
Exactly.
Especially in a time when reboots are the craze. It's everyone's time. It's time for everything to come back. So this is definitely on the top of the list of things it should.
Yeah.
It's definitely is, but it's also, all things have to connect.
Yep.
There has to, he wants to do it. There has to be, if they wanted to get some cast members to come back to do it, they have to ask them, because if I wanted to put it in a successful reboot, you have to have some parts of the original cast.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's I mean, I would say the first reboot that really did that was Degrassi, The Next Generation. And it was like they slowly, they had the students from the original as the adults, and then slowly they all disappeared except for one of them. But and then they did it with 90210, where when it started it was Tori Spelling and and then Shannon Doherty, and then they disappeared. But it's like they've been getting so much better with it, where like these casts are actually wanting to do these shows and like wanting to, I mean, with the exception of Fuller House and the Olsen twins, everyone seems to be on board for doing things like this.
Yeah, it's definitely all the craze right now. And I think if they did this kind of like in the style of Cobra Kai, then we would have something even more special than the original series. They could definitely expand upon the existing characters and storylines and really make it something cool. So
yeah,
everybody in the reunion and in the interview we did seemed to be pretty enthusiastic about it. So fingers crossed, maybe we'll see something soon. I hope.
I hope so too. And I hope. And with this along, The Secret of Alex Mack holds a great deal to my heart. Is one of my favorite shows that put on to in Nickelodeon and onto the beloved Saturday night Snick lineup, and it forever will be. It's just well thought out show. For those who have not seen this show, please watch it. I know they have episodes on iTunes, and hopefully, I hopefully have a feeling it will be on the streaming service on Paramount Plus, which will launch on March 4th.
So, yeah, it's coming soon. Yeah.
Nice.
For that alone, we make a toast to the secret world of Alex Mack as we pop the champagne. Keep on going, and we hope many people watch this for years to come. First, before we go, I want to also be putting out for the future for Nostalgia Time coming up in next week. I hope we'll be returning. We're going to have our discussion of another favorite Nickelodeon show, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Is one of my favorite shows along. And coming in March is Game Show Month on Nostalgia Time. We're going to be discussing two great game shows, Double Dare and Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Yes, I love that. I used to, oh my God. I have a little story about that, but I could save that for when we discuss it. Love that.
All I can say from my guests is I hope you have a nice green monkey, blue barracuda, or red jaguars when you do. That's going to be something to talk about on here. So those are things. Those are coming on to Nostalgia Time. But I'm so excited to talk about that. I also want to thank my guest today, Randy. Thank you for coming on, the host of Unger the Radar. That's Unger with a G, and also Unger the Radar is on Manhattan Neighborhood Network's Lifestyle channel on Mondays at 11 a.m. Please don't forget, please watch. I'm excited. I'll be coming on a guest later on within the next coming weeks again. So I'm happy to do this with you, Randy, again. Thank you. And also with Matt Roran, the head of Cold Cafe. We have some very good stuff. So I'm just excited to keep on doing. Hopefully you'll be back in the theater soon. I see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I'm inching towards that light. I need that light.
We all do. We all need that light. And
Yeah.
doing these shows, this is just a glimmer of that light, and we need it more now than ever. So thank you guys.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for coming. I am Kid Champagne, Matthew Haberman. Kid Champagne signing off.